What is up, fantasy fans, comic book fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, narrator of The Gallant by Janny Wirtz and author of forthcoming fantasy novel Requiem Dreams of the Sleepless, avid fantasy, comic book, and literary fiction fan. And today I'm going to talk about a comic I read recently, very famous graphic novel of The Dark Knight, and that is The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. Writing, pencils, all done by Frank Miller. And first, I want to say that I highly respect what Frank Miller did with The Dark Knight. I think it is influential. You can see the inspirations of Frank Miller. There's so many images in this comic that you see so many authors, so many artists have taken inspiration from these different scenes. And you get a grizzled older Bruce and a Clark Kent that is serving the U.S. government. And I definitely understand what this book is saying, the dangers of a, Reagan sort of presidency and the dangers of different ideologies going on at the time. And I think it definitely has something to say. But at the same time, it takes these characters that I love, like The Dark Knight, like Catwoman, and makes them older, less sleek and sexy, more grizzled, more flawed. And I love flawed characters. I love flawed superheroes, but there's specifically a scene with Catwoman where it took so much of the majesty away from Selena Kyle as a character that I have always found to be confident, powerful, controls every room she's in, capable, and made her. It took away an aspect of Catwoman, and it does that with Batman, and it does that with Superman. Jim Gordon's kind of the same. He's the pillar of this book, and it did that intentionally, and that's why so many people love it. Is because it did deconstruct so many things. But for me, I have such a love for the Batman mythos and for all the characters in that mythos that it just didn't work for me in some aspects. I still give it a 3 out of 5, maybe even a 3.5, but it is not a book I would give to people wanting to learn about Batman. Maybe after you have a little bit more history with the character, I'd introduce a story like The Dark Knight Returns, but for me personally, it did not work. But let me know down in the comment sections what you thought of The Dark Knight Returns and Frank Miller's other seminal works on Batman like Year One, and stay safe, guys. Peace.